Jafar, thank you very much for joining us on Access Middle East. Good to see you.
Thank you, good to see you.
And let's get down to some business action, if you will. Iraq, an exciting story for investors. What's your take on where the oil industry is there at the moment?
Well, 10 years on after the US invasion, it clearly hasn't delivered on the promise. The reserves in oil and gas in Iraq are officially second after Saudi and probably even number one. But the exploration hasn't happened, the policy hasn't happened, even the legislation, the necessary oil law. So we've had these service contracts, I'm talking about the federal government, and they haven't delivered, so they're being renegotiated. They haven't aligned adequately the investor with the host government. So 3 million barrels is where we're at today, which is not really much higher than 10 years ago, even though we'd seen targets of 6 and 8 and 10 million barrels, again repeated this past week. It's not really, I mean, it's great to have lofty ambitions. The reserves are there, but we need the right policy and the right incentives and the alignment of the investor. There are, of course, issues of bureaucracy, corruption, and some security issues.
I mean, you have exposure to Iraq through Crescent Petroleum. The political disarray is really what is the chief reason why a lot of that there hasn't been any delivery on some of the issues you mentioned. Has your view changed on where Iraq is headed?
Our investments in Iraq in the oil and gas space as a group have been in the Kurdistan region. As Crescent Petroleum and Dana Gas, joint operator there of the major gas project. We've invested over $1 billion already. We're currently producing 350 million cubic feet, which is 80,000 barrels of oil equivalent. It was a major project, and thanks to the gas we produce, the northern region, the Kurdistan region, has almost round-the-clock electricity, where many other parts of the country are still languishing on 2 to 6 hours of electricity per day, which is a tragedy. But they've adopted a more pro-investment approach and a pro-private sector-led approach, even on the power side. So IPP, private investors producing the power. Unfortunately, a lot of the rest of the country is trapped in this state-centric socialist mindset that, of course, dominated for the last 3 decades, and they're unable to move forward. So you're quite right. It's the politics and the policy that have held back the potential. And I was on a recent discussion facilitated by the forum to discuss the latest IEA report, and there was a compare and contrast between what Iraq has failed to achieve in the last 10 years and needs to going forward, because they predict 40% of the world's new oil supply in the coming decades is going to come just from Iraq. And looking at the US 10 years ago, nobody expected it to be a major player again in oil and gas markets. Thanks to the power of the private sector and the shale revolution there, it is a huge player again. Its demand for imports is decreasing. It may soon be exporting gas. So I say, unfortunately, look, you never underestimate the power of the US private sector when suitably empowered. And unfortunately, never underestimate the ability of politics and the regional public sector sometimes to hold back the true potential.
So where is Crescent Petroleum looking for new opportunities?
Well, we're proud to be the oldest private oil and gas company in the region. We're past 40 years now operating throughout the region. We're active currently in the UAE, in Iraq, as you mentioned, through our affiliate Dana Gas, where I serve on the board, in Egypt as well, where we're the 6th largest gas producer. Both companies are recently qualified in Lebanon for the bidding round. And again, that's an interesting show of the change of the industry. The Eastern Mediterranean was an energy short area, and now may soon become a supplier to the rest of the world. So there are exciting times, there are opportunities. As regional companies, we feel better placed to manage risks, identify risks, relationships. These things are becoming more and more important in the new Arab world or the Middle East that we face. And technology or access to capital are no longer the differentiators they were. It's understanding local and being able to deliver value at the very local level, down to the municipality or town or tribal area, not just a good relationship with the ministry or the central government.
Coming up, I want to bring it back to the security concerns. Is it cost prohibitive for these companies to come in?
Yes, it is cost prohibitive for international firms to send their staff into country.
That's all coming up next on Access Middle East.